Yeah, love is for everyone. Prayer is for everyone. There are wonderful activities that we've been endowed with as human beings that help us order our environment, help us support each other, help us love each other, raise our children. They help us send our dead off to the next life or from a transition of life to death. And they're all free. And we should not be putting prayer or love or empathy behind paywalls. And some paywalls are financial, meaning, well, you haven't paid your subscription this month, so I can't love you, I can't do this for you, I can't help you, I can't pray for you. And people do that, whether it's buy this green cloth right now, and if you act now, I'll toss in my new and improved Bible where I've highlighted verses and scriptures for your people healing.
The miracle oil.
Yeah, exactly. You can put them behind paywalls, right? Or they shouldn't be behind emotional paywalls or moral paywalls. What do I mean by that? Hey, you haven't done enough, so you don't qualify for this prayer. Or you're not perfect in these ways that I deem people to be perfect. So then I'm not going to, send you thoughts or prayers or honor you or spend time lifting you up or basically giving you the kind of, I would say, worship that human beings are permitted by God to give to each other.
Bro, that's a
Not
mouthful
worship that's meant for
because
God, but the worship that human beings can give to each other. Hey, keep going. You're doing well. Cheering someone on, encouraging them. I'm not going to do that for you because you haven't passed my moral paywall. And we have to be careful when we are being empathetic, because this show is about empathy. This episode's about empathy and the importance of empathy, right? The complete topic is the power of empathy, walking in someone else's shoes. Yes, you have to be careful that you become so empathetic you lose track of what it means to be boundaried, healthy, and put healthy boundaries up. But we also need to be, just on the opposite side, aware of we sometimes only give empathy to the categories that we want to give empathy to, whether it's, you're of my religion, of my race, you're of my nationality, you're of my ethnicity or race or religion that I vibe with.
right.
And if you're not part of it, I'm not going to be empathetic towards you or your cause or your people or your plight or your trauma or your deaths. And we see people becoming inured, hardened to death. And we just take it as like someone, taking a dump and wiping their behind. Hopefully they're wiping their behind.
Yeah, that hardened heart is something real, bro.
Oh, it is. I mean,
Be,
we've become hardened as a society, even globally speaking.
yeah.
I mean, we have seen multiple deaths, tragic deaths, over the last, I would say, 25 years since the start of the century. So 2000, 9/11, the Israel and Palestine conflict.
School shootings. Oh my gosh, mass school shootings, COVID pandemic. Even these recent plane crashes.
Yeah, plane crashes, racial hate crimes. And you'll see on the internet, it's trial by the internet, trial by social media. And people typically are not fair and unbiased or dispassionate and cold and calculated looking at the evidence. They're going based on what they feel is true, based on their vibes, on who they vibe with, what group they support, who do they like, who do they want to be around, who do they support. And unfortunately, we're missing out on opportunities to build bridges to amplify the human experience that I believe is the foundation or foundational to helping change society. Because empathy does change your perspective. And if a bunch of us change our perspective, we are now empowered to change society.
And yo, that's really empathy in dating. It's amplifying somebody else's lived experience.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you lose yourself. You know what I mean? I think empathy requires consideration, not consent.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, you think about like what the title says, you're walking in somebody else's shoes, right? And you're considering their experience, what they've had to go through, what's led them up to this point now that you're sitting in front of them and connecting with them in whatever way y'all are connecting. But if you can't even hold space for that, like why even move further? Why would you even want to go deeper with somebody if you can't even hold space just for like the average person you walk by every day? Like, what more do you think you're going to do in a committed monogamous relationship context? Do you think you're going to become like a superhuman after that and be able to be more empathetic? And I don't see that happening. If you can't do that just for the average person you walk by every day.
Well, what did Jesus say? How could you say you love God you've never seen, but not love the neighbor you see every day?
Yeah, man, listen.
Powerful scriptures.
Facts. Big facts. And even on the other side of that, when you get to the gates and he was like, yo, I'm going to be like, yo, did you feed the homeless?
Yeah.
Were you good? Were you generous to people and kind?
Yeah.
Empathy,
you mentioned
man.
empathy, in regards to why some people want to do it, especially if they want to be committed. I will posit that some people don't want to do it because they're not interested in being in a committed monogamous relationship. They're interested in control.
Say more.
They're interested in control. They're interested in being in a situation where they can manipulate or control love because maybe they've been through a scenario being raised in their childhood. References are about control and with love. And they're just trying to reboot that program or take that program from here, side A, and move it into slot B, rather, and keep the program running from their perspective. Now I'm, the big cheese. Now I'm the one who's the controller, the manipulator, and they're trying to scratch a psychological itch they have around love as opposed to being in love and being ravished by love. My spouse, or excuse me, my parents, my siblings were controlling, so now I'm going to control, and now I'm the one in charge. So you can't control by yourself. You can't be in your studio apartment, the TVs and computers and all the latest technology control. I mean, you can control things, but you're not going to get the psychological payoff you would get from controlling another person, from getting someone else's hopes high, getting them charged off of your connections and the things you're saying, your rhetoric, your language, and then all of a sudden ripping the rug right up from under them and watching and feeding off the pain, the trauma, the confusion. It becomes almost ecstatic to you. It becomes similar to what the kind of hits I would imagine some people who dabble in drugs would do. There is a high that person's getting from controlling the scenario, knowing that this person was taking it up to these points of ecstasy, and now they're wallowing these valley points of hell. And now I get to take that energy in, and I get to breathe it in and feel important and feel like you have to come to me for you to receive, to you to feel like you've been given. And I'm generous and I'll be magnanimous. What did your man say in Gladiator 1? Am I not merciful? Am I not merciful? Commodus? Am I not merciful? But people are screaming that all the time.
Yeah.
Acting as horrible, as
Ugly,
treacherous, and as ugly as
diabolical.
Commodus was acting in that movie.
Yeah. I feel
And
like
then turning around and saying, am I not merciful?
I feel like what you're talking about, that kind of energy, that vibe is bred from people who are transactional in their dealings or relationships. Because when you really have a heart to grow with somebody, you're not thinking about leveraging power.
No, you're thinking about utilizing it to serve.
Bro, the utilization versus the leveraging, my man.
Yeah, you're utilizing power to serve. You're utilizing power so that someone or someones who are connected to you, or may not even be connected to you, you may be doing it because you walk by somebody who needs a code, or somebody who needs to be fed today, or somebody you just know at work, remotely, who just needs a little help to get their work done so they can go home to their family. You're doing it to serve. You're doing it to serve. And to utilize it to serve is a powerful statement about love and about humanity and about connection.
Yeah.
But I think what we get with people aren't being empathetic. I don't think their interest is empathy. I think their interest is control and sometimes data dumping on other people. You have all this negative emotional content, these negative emotional data points, and now I'm going to dump it on you because I want you to feel what I felt.
Damn. It sounds like what you're saying is there are more people who can't emotionally afford to date rather than financially afford to date.
Oh, of course. That's a great point. There's more people who can emotionally afford to date as opposed to financially afford to date.
Yeah, because they're out here trying to leverage and control and manipulate, and they have this transaction-based approach to connecting.
And this is the other part of empathy, because no matter how empathetic you are to them, no matter how loving and obsequious and giving you are to them, they are on a program track to control. So they have to get you up to bring you down, get you up to bring you down, because then I know when you're reliant on me for your sustenance of love, energy, positivity, when I want to be positive, connection when I want to get connected. But I'm not even doing connection when I want connection. I'm doing it strategically, and I'm placing, almost like I'm playing chess. I'm playing with your life like it's chess, getting to the point where I could say checkmate. The game ends, you're on your knees crying, screaming out, begging please, what's going on? And then I'm kind again, and then I reset the board and we play all over again.
Man, that's master manipulation tactics right there, bro. God level gaslighting.
Yeah.
But I mean,
people
it is happening.
Going through that.
It is happening. Yeah, I was going to say the way I've seen it manifest, or one of the ways I've seen it manifest. Recently, I was talking to somebody that I matched with on an app, and she was telling me about how this dude was basically trying to gaslight her into sleeping with him on the first date. So they were talking, and she was like, just because I see somebody that I'm attracted to and I want to sleep with them on the first date doesn't mean that I will. And the game comes out. He was just like, you're not grown enough to make that decision for yourself, and you're worried about how people are gonna look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, nah, I just,
Just don't want to do it.
I'm 30, whatever, at this age, and I've done that in the past. That's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And he's just going on this whole tirade, according to her, about still having immature thinking at that age. And like, we should be able to do what we do because we're old enough and we can make our own decisions. And she was like, bro, if that's how you moving, I'm not shaming you for that.
Yeah.
Go out there and live.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Just
just
not with
not the
me.
time I'm on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he just, he wouldn't let it go.
Yeah. Because I
But
gotta have it.
I gotta be in control. And like you're saying, if he would have smashed, it probably would have been, I gotta bring you down. And
Mm-hmm.
if he saw her feeling bad about it, then it's like, nah, baby, I care about you and da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And once he's in the good graces again, it's just, all right, let me smash again,
Yeah.
reset.
Bring you up to bring you down. Bring you up to bring you down.
Yeah.
And I see it. And some people will do things like I had one woman make a point to me years ago, almost 20 years ago. You go on a date with a guy. The date's flowing good. You go home and you sleep with them. Maybe something you normally don't do. Then he turns around and says, I can't be with you because you slept with me. But you asked me to sleep with you.
Mm.
And now I give you what you want. Now you're saying because I gave you what you want, I'm not good enough. These are the games we play with each other as human beings. That lacks complete empathy. It's, I don't want to be tested. I left my wallet full of money out on the table knowing you haven't eaten in 2 days to see if you would just not take the money and get something to eat. And you did. So that just tells me you ain't the kind of person that needs to be trusted with money.
Yeah, you're disqualified.
Why would you even do that to
Yeah,
me?
why would you even do that?
Is that the kind of love you want to receive? Maybe that's the kind of love you have received.
Yeah, I know I was telling somebody there was a time when I don't want to say I hated women because that's extreme, but I really disliked the double standards that were advantageous to them. One particularly was how they would use particular language to validate or justify what a real man is based on what he would give to them. So if you're not the type of dude that's paying for every date or showering me and whining and dining and doing all, like, you're not a real man. And I remember, and I was telling them that, like, yo, that's the kind of manipulation that, like you talk about, it brings somebody up and it takes them down. Because if they do that, you're going to show them appreciation, or you may not even do that. You're going to smile and take it and receive all of these gifts and whatever. But as soon as that stops or he falls back from that, he loses his value or his worth.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, materialism that drives people. Essentially, they think it drives them forward, but it just drives you into the dirt. And nothing wrong with material things and material items in and of themselves. It's the lust or the greed for them, this insatiable greed to fill the hole that you have with material items. I'm not saying you don't want a man who helps to take care of the house, the finances, and all that. That's fine. That's just your goal. That's your goal. Same thing with a man with a woman. That's your goal. That's your goals. And some of those are traditional for people, and that's fine too. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're doing it to drive someone into the ground, I don't think you're being empathetic. And this is why I'm saying empathy is the number one skill you should cultivate. In the book, We'll Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss calls it tactical empathy, how they would use tactical empathy to persuade people. I'm reading a book, Super Communicators, by Charles Duhigg. And in it, there's another FBI guy who talks about using empathy, how there was a man who was in a hostage situation with a bunch of alligators and snakes in an apartment, and he just worked with the guy and basically created a dialogue around empathy where he wanted the guy to see, because he truly did love, even though he had this illegal animal smuggling ring, he really did care about these animals, and worked with the guy to see what was happening with the hostage situation from the animal's point of view. Nigga, I'm not gonna be able to eat. I'm not gonna be able to hunt and carry and do the things that matter to me. You got me in this apartment because you're being selfish, or maybe he didn't use that word. You're being preoccupied with this goal that's ultimately you're saying is for me, but it's hurting me. And the guy was able to come out and give up the animals. And he talks about how you establish a rapport with people. And I don't want to spoil it for you in the book because it's in the opening of the book, but essentially what he does is ask people questions. So he said to one guy, he was like, can you tell me what's your favorite memory? The doctor said it was when my daughter got married. He goes, oh, wow, that's great. I can imagine marriage. He goes, my sister got married in 2010. and then she died shortly thereafter. And when I think about her, I think about how pretty she looked on that day in 2010. And this goes on for about an hour and a half till someone says, another scientist, you're not teaching us how you do what you do with communication. Now I'm going to tell you how he flips that. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to read the book. But the point I'm going to elucidate at this point in time is that when you spend time listening to people's stories and actually responding to what they said, and then sharing and being vulnerable with them, that creates a connection where people feel like they can be their true self around you. They can drop the fake self, because we all have created fake selves due to trauma and other issues. We'll get into that in another episode, Winnicott's work, fake self and true self. But once you feel like I can really be a creative person around you, that just allows for the exchange of better ideas, better work, better labor, and just overall better connections. And empathy is at the base of all that. Empathy is what undergirds all of that type of outcomes. And people want those outcomes, but they're not using empathy. They're trying to use the whip.
Mm-hmm.
And the whip is only taking you so far, because you could whip a horse to run fast, but do you think you go faster and further in a Porsche, in a Dodge Charger? I mean, Peugeot will go faster than a horse and longer. Horse can only go so fast.
Right.
Horse slows down, you still whipping the horse. Horse needs rest, you still whipping the horse. Horse needs to drink water, you still whipping the horse. Horse needs to defecate, you still whipping the horse. When you easily just could have been in a car and went, faster and longer. And that's what empathy does. It takes you faster and longer in your relationships.
Yeah, it's definitely the number one of the top primary skills to cultivate, because every situation, every relationship, whether short term or long term, is going to come up against some kind of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you need empathy to navigate those situations amicably, so they don't bubble up into something more negative. And, when you're talking about in a dating context, right? Like I talked about last episode, being on that date on a hot day, and this person is nagging me about this chicken salad
at a vegetarian restaurant.
Like, yeah, I definitely could have exercised some more empathy. And that's another thing. Like, empathy is felt and shown, I would say, on the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like, I think the ideal empathy we're talking about, as the title suggests, is walking in somebody else's shoes. I didn't necessarily, because I'm not vegan or vegetarian, in that regard, I couldn't really walk in that person's shoes. But I've been sick before and know what it's like to only be able to eat soup. And maybe it's just could have been like, yo, maybe she really didn't want to be vegan or vegetarian. That's something she had to do for health. And that's why she's nagging.
Or ethical standards. She really has a problem with people eating animals. Some people do. They really have a problem with it. Shouldn't have been on a date with you. But,
I mean, yeah, no, I feel you.
But if I just may say here, empathy is what you're doing now. Hey, look, wherever you're at, I'll probably never see you again on a date. We'll never maybe meet in this life ever again. I'm sending good prayers and vibes to you. Rock out. It's over. Like, that's empathy to me. There is an aftercare that sometimes when an exchange happens that's tense or conflict laden, you can go back and maybe not immediately. You can forgive yourself, forgive everyone in this scenario. And when someone brings it up 20 years from now, you remember that time on the podcast when y'all were getting big and you told us about the vegetarian lady? Are you still pissed off at her? Like, nah, man, like wherever she's at, I wish her much, what did I say? Much peace and blessings. Even if you wish me the opposite, sooner or later, we'll
all see who the prophet is. Yeah, no doubt. For sure. That was the kind of empathy I could have showed that day. But
now you're showing empathy and saying, hey, it's all good.
Yeah, that's a great empathetic statement. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. I ain't got no hate against you, and I wish you the best. Wish you the best.
Yeah, but that's not the time or the vibes out here, bro. I'm telling you.
Oh, it's not.
It feels like people are just on the razor's edge at all. Like they're ready to give you smoke from the time they wake up to the time they lay their head down, son. It seems like people are just ready to give it to you at any given moment. Like empathy is a rarity out here.
Well, I think it's a rarity because it's not immediately rewarded. And we live in an immediacy culture. The McDonaldization or the microwaveization of culture. And empathy's crockpot.
Slow roast.
A great meal, it feels hearty, it feels fulfilling, and then you feel well after you eat it. But if I'm always going from short term to short term, then I need something now. And while it tastes good or it tastes decent, like those couple of noodles. I mean, I could still eat one of those couple of noodles right now. I know it's not good for me. I'm more educated about health standards, food practices. I know it's not good. But if I can't get ramen and I want a cheap thing, I'll eat that. But imagine eating that every day like some people have for a variety of reasons, especially people in poverty.
Yeah.
You're getting the short-term hit, that you need because your body needs sustenance. But what's happening to you long term? I mean, they're saying these things cause cancer. And when you're in a short term mindset, probably due to poverty, abuse, trauma, wage theft, income inequality, you are limited in your ability to think long term. So I can't give it to you because, as our friend Terry Starks used to say, Pastor Terry Starks, I can only give you what I have. I can't give you what I don't have. You can ask me $5 million, but if I don't have $5 million to give you, I can't give you. If I have $5 in my pocket, that's the most I can do. And I honestly believe that's where a lot of people are at due to a lot of what we talked just a couple of moments ago, the social environment the last 25 years. School shootings upon death, reckless death, death that is either due to negligence by an organization or an institution, death due to death dealing by wars, armies,
Big
militias,
pharma, all of
big,
that.
yeah, all of that. Yeah, negligence of organizations or people putting out bad products they know that are not ultimately healthy for people. There's so much death and it feels so uncontrollable to people. The only thing they believe they can do is go inside in their heart and come back hardened. When I go inside my heart, I'm put that armor on and I got smoke for you all
All
day
day
and
and all
twice on
night.
Sunday. I thought Sunday was a Sabbath. Sunday's the extra day. Ain't no Sabbath. I ain't resting. I'm
Yeah.
going harder on Sunday.
I'm gonna rest, all right. I'm gonna rest this smoke right up on your head.
Yeah. And if God cared so much, why don't God take care of the situations where I saw this and I experienced that and I heard about this and I heard about that? People are angry at God, angry at the universe. They're angry
Yeah.
because I think the human beings, we've reached a limit in how much information we can take in. And I think how much death and pain and torture we can take in. My
Yeah.
friend Ben Willerbrain talks about, scale. It's hard to change 70 million minds at one time. Yet we're tasked with doing that every single day, living in this global society that would not have existed 100 years ago.
Yeah. For a
With
lack of
communications
love,
that, yeah.
lack
So
of empathy.
we just don't
And
have
maybe
good
that's why
models.
there's this epidemic of loneliness.
Of course. Why do I want to? I think we're disconnected from the touch points of connection that we've historically had as a race of people. I'm talking about the human race. The third place, the churches, the worship halls, and then technology has again allowed us to be in these correspondences of comfort. I have my TV program the way I need to go. I get in my car, the seat starts adjusting to my adjustments. You get back in the car back in the 80s, get in that seat. Well, I want to adjust. I'm about to adjust you if you don't get in that car.
That seatbelt was your mom's arm
Yeah, exactly.
holding you back.
Or the most you could do in a car in the 80s, move it up and move it back. That was your
Reclining, that's
adjustment.
it. Yeah,
Maybe
reclining,
recline a
that's
little
it.
bit. Now you got heated seats. There's so much that is creature comfort good for us. And being in a relationship with another person is not creature comfort good. It's work. It's service. There are comforts, but it's not creature comfort good where you can just press buttons and pull levers and move levers and expect your spouse, your significant other, the person you're dating to be what you want them to be in that moment. There's going to be missed opportunities, broken promise, miscommunication.
And it's so crazy that people want those comforts and those benefits without putting in the time.
Why would they? Everything else doesn't come with time. I just said we're in the
Yeah,
McDonaldization of
no
society.
doubt.
Everything else doesn't come with time.
No doubt. I think I'm just saying it as a
We're so
fact,
lost. We're from
factually.
removed. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
We're so removed from the critical work we need to do to understand and connect with each other. To
Yeah.
understand and connect with each other. I mean, to me, empathy should be decorating all of your conversations.
Facts.
Decorating all of your conversations. Think of your conversations as a Christmas tree, and empathy is the tinsel, it's the ornaments. It should be decorating all of your conversations.
Yeah.
Because everyone's craving empathy. They want to be understood and they want to feel heard and they want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can do that, the more you will create genuine connected relationships. They will take time. Again, the difference between the microwave and the crock pot. So
Sucking that meat off the bone, off the
yeah,
crock pot.
it hit different in that cast iron skillet.
Facts.
It hit different. That steak hit different. And I think a lot of us just don't have the capacity right now. We're just inundated every day with trauma.
And death. We're, like you said, at scale, we're probably taking in more death, doom, and gloom than anything else.
Yeah. Someone made a point, I think Ty Lopez read one of his newsletters many years ago where he said, if you grew up in a village 150 years ago, you'd be in a village and maybe you see 2 or 3 women naked, maybe. Now we're seeing naked is over like 18 million, what is it, 18 billion images of naked women, of the women on the internet. See a naked woman anytime I want to. And not just naked for the sake of education and anatomy, like naked for the sake of just
perversion.
sexual pleasure and curiosity. Sexual curiosity has its place, but when it's on overdrive, we know what's causing. We see what it's doing. The research is here now. This is no longer a moral issue. Porn has become a public health issue. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I haven't used porn or I didn't use porn. And so this is not what this is. This is not a moral exclamation. This is just about recognizing the public health benefits. Like people who do drugs are saying, no, I recognize a lot of drugs in a community is a public health issue. It just is unregulated, given to children. It's a problem. And so we've gotten to this point where we need to be honest about, what we're ODing on out here. Hopelessness.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Empathy will be slow. Empathy is not fun, but over time, it is the most adventurous ride you could ever take with another human being or human beings. I just encourage you, when you can, invest in your empathy skills.
Adventurous ride. That it is, sir. That it is. Because like we're talking about connecting, it requires you to learn about yourself and someone else, be considerate, live outside or live past what you can see in front of your face. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's an adventure.
Absolutely.
And on that note,
save the date. I'm Heath.
I'm Jamie, y'all.
Till next time.
Peace.
Take care.